I think you're not frozen, Kevin. Again, 2 for 2.
we finally planned for it not to work, and you know what? No, I am frozen.
Oh, okay. You're faking it. I know you're just faking it.
He did glitch for a second there. I saw it.
And you know what? I think why everybody thinks we're so organized is because of that awesome intro that we totally have nothing to do with.
It's better every time I see it.
Yes, absolutely. Welcome to Explain Yourself, the Kickstarter roundtable, where we bring some comic creators with live projects going on, and basically we talk their projects, we talk comics, and I want to thank everybody who is listening. Please drop your names in the comments, and please ask every creator here what you want to learn about their projects, about how they make comics. My name is Kevin Joseph.
I'm Will Allred, and we've got an awesome group of creators tonight. I'm going to start like counterclockwise, I guess. So we've got artist Mog Park from Snowpop, writer Rob Multari from Snowpop, editor Chuck Pinhow from Savage Sasquatch and every other book on Kickstarter at the present. And we have Wes, who is the writer of Savage Sasquatch, and you're stuck with me and Kevin. So there you go.
Absolutely. We've already got a wolf pack in it. Trish, we got Trish and Mike with the wolf pack.
And I got to give them a shout out too. Trish and Mike put these pins together for me.
Wow.
Oh, cool!
They're amazing.
Oh, it's in pink for you.
Well, you know what? My daughter stole this from me. I couldn't find it for a whole day because she stole it.
That is awesome. Chuck gets a special welcome from Mike James Bingham talking about Bilal. So let's do a little pitch on like the elevator pitch. Wes, if somebody was going past your convention table, how would you introduce Savage Sasquatch?
Usually it's just 3 words. Bigfoot in space.
Bam. It's gonna be a short show tonight. All right, perfect.
Yeah.
All right,
well, if they stop with that, then we can hook them in and go a little further and talk about action adventure. Over the top. If they're Ninja Turtles fans, this is very much in that same vein of just the most ridiculous idea you can think of, just distilled into its purest form as a comic book. Sci-fi adventure.
That's how comics work a lot of times. Sometimes it's I want to build this existential thought into an abstract version of real life and mirror. And sometimes it's like this thing is kind of fucked up, and I just want to write it. And you know what? They're both fabulous, and it's great. Yeah. So we're going to get back into it. Rob and Mog, how do you guys how would you talk about Snowpop if you had 15 seconds to get somebody interested?
Can I go first, Rob?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, by all means.
So I'll say, imagine this. Late 1800s, Scotland, female werewolf.
Done.
Yes.
Done.
I'm there. 1800s, Scotland, female werewolf. I'm there. So
that's
how would you do it, Rob?
Said too.
Yeah. I'm a wonderful mimic. I remember what I said about mirroring. That's
no, but I mean, like when I introduced her to the idea, that's exactly what I said, and she was like, she repeated those same words. She's like, "I'm in."
That's beautiful.
Oh, great.
Now, Snowpop comes out of Nightwolf. Is this a prequel, a sequel? What is the time period of Snowpop compared to Nightwolf?
So Snowpop takes place in the 19th century, which is 200 years prior to the events of Nightwolf, and it's basically a prequel for the origin story of Snowpop, which is Nightwolf's mentor.
Okay, beautiful. We're gonna pop Joey Galvez says hello. Joey is
Joey.
the gentleman who allows us to do this. Kind of lets us look professional with the video, and then Will and I start talking, and we give up all pretense.
Behind the scenes, man.
But Joey, how are you, buddy? Well, let's dig down into one of these projects. Let's go into Savage Sasquatch, and for the first time, I believe we have an editor with the project on at the same time. So, Wes, how did you get Chuck involved with the project?
He came fairly late. He started on issue 5 mainly because as I was reworking my script, I just hit a stumbling block, and I was like, man, this isn't hitting how I need to go. The story beat this for the character Sova Yeti, which is my abominable snow woman in space with a cosmonaut. Yeah, the beat wasn't hitting right, and I just racking my brain. I was like, all right, let me hit up Chuck, because let me see what he's got in the tank. And he went and read kind of like this 6-7 page sequence. He's like, bro, you did it backwards. Just turn it, flip the organization in reverse, because you've got everything, but you did it wrong. You put the reveal up front, whereas you can build to it. And it's just like, yeah, duh. It's like, okay, I need your help to make sure issue 6 hits, because, I got all these moving parts and all these characters, and that's it. You're in on 6, and oh yeah, you're also going to help me on all my other future books too, just so you know.
That's beautiful. That's the way to do it. I'm going to go to the page, and you can talk us a little bit deeper about issue. With as many spoilers as you want to put out, or keeping everything secret. Let's talk about issues 1 through 6 and how people could catch up, or obviously if they've been with you the whole time, they're just going to come for issue 6. So I'm going to pull up the page. Will you give us a deeper dive on the book?
Sure.
Wes, do you mind if I talk about it real quick?
Knock yourself out, bro.
So the thing is, like Wes said, I came in at issue 5, but I came in reading it at issue 1. Wes and I actually, my second convention I'd ever tabled at, he was right across from me, and I saw all these really cool books on his table and whatnot. Went over, talked to him, introduced myself. We kind of chatted back and forth, and then we traded comics. And I read Savage Sasquatch, and I'll be straight with you, I saw it and I was like, really? Like, what is this? And it kind of sat aside for a little bit, and then I was driving to Florida and I had to do some reviews, and I was like, you know what? I'll pull this one out. I'll do a review. And I fell in love. It was like the funnest book I'd ever read. And then I picked up the rest of them each time they came out, 2, 3, 4, all the way up. I was in on every single Kickstarter. I loved it. I had so much fun with that thing. Anytime I saw him at a show, if I hadn't been able to be on a Kickstarter, all right, I'll buy that one. Like, I completely fell in love with the crazy, out-of-the-world space opera sort of thing and the absolute absurd fun of it all. I was just completely in, and I became a big fan. And then, he and I started working together. And he said, do you want to take a stab at this? Yeah, I do. I would love that. And so here we are. And I'm so excited to be a part of this. Because like I said, this is just like pure fun in however many pages. You get in there, you get rid of all, anything else in reality that matters, get rid of it. And just like decide you're going to have fun. And it's all there, man. And I'm telling you that as a fan of the first 4 before I even stepped into the rest of them. So,
and I can back Chuck up here. He's not making this up after he was hired, because at Houston Comic Palooza, you made a point to bring me over to Wes's booth get Sasquatch #1. So, Wes, we've talked for like 5 minutes at the end of a show when I know I was drunk. I don't know if you were. So it's okay if you don't remember me, because at the end of the show I'm done anyway. But he was talking up the book 3 years ago when we were together?
19, yeah.
Yeah. So He's been a fan long before he became part of the project. I know that.
But yeah, how do I follow Chuck?
Very
You got
careful.
this.
That's like, Chuck, just do this for me, bro.
I know, right? It just like I don't know, man. Like I said, it's super fun. It has the single greatest arm wrestling story you will ever see in any book.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
I was going to
then-
say, because Over the Top's already been done, so let's not.
It's over that. It really is
Well,
insane.
it's literally over the top,
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone.
And then he goes on and he somehow topped that by then making fun of the scene we had already seen. And it was this level of brilliance that I've probably never seen. And it bothered me as a writer of comedy that I'd never thought of it. Like, it really, like, I was like, oh my gosh, he wrote a scene and then the next issue, he made fun of that scene all over again. Like, that's the most brilliant recycling I've ever seen. It was, and I laughed so hard as I read it, like so stupidly hard. And I'm sorry, I know I'm making this tough on you, Wes, but like seriously, I had
good.
such a blast with that stuff.
Is that described as meta? I've never really been too clear on that.
It's at least meta adjacent.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not somebody who really tries to write overly dramatic, very dark, like, hey, let me get you to think about the world or yourself or your soul or whatever. Like, I go into a comic and it's purely escapism. It's fun. Like, there are themes I've uncovered just by happenstance. Most of the themes I write are very, very similar in trying to find your place in the universe. So that's a very recurring theme in Sasquatch and all these other yahoos he teams up with, trying to find their place in the universe as everything they know gets turned on its head. And that leads to arm wrestling, and there's a little bit of Indian leg wrestling with a bear, like I said, abominable snow women, tentacle monsters, laser unicorns, space sirens that eat dreams.
Oh, beautiful.
It's just the best advice I ever got in comics was from my friend Robbie Bavard. He used to write Ninja High School for many, many years, and the very first professional comic writing job I got, I told him, like, oh yeah, I have these ideas, but maybe one day I can do this something else. And the best advice he gave me is like, why are you waiting? Do everything you want to do right now, because you never know if you're going to get the chance again, because who knows what happens.
Right.
So it's like, oh, he's like, you'll always get more ideas. It's like, oh, yeah, ideas are kind of easy. It's the rest of it that's hard. So, okay, if I want to see something, how do I make that happen? So that's been a lot of my mantra when it comes to making comics, is just like, man, what is just some craziness, fun thing that I want to do or see that I haven't experienced before? Or if I have, like, can I take it to a different level or a different place and just run with it?
I see here, fun, fast-paced art and story by some guy named Gene Ha. So couldn't you get somebody good for your
pull quotes?
Just the top 10 co-creator is your pull quote? I mean, just dropped a bomb on all of us here.
Well, there was another one that didn't come through ever in time. I'm still kind of mad about that. I was like, you could have helped me sell this book so much, but it hasn't come through in time, so it hasn't made it on the campaign yet. So I don't want to name names and get anybody in trouble.
Former president, I won't even say because we don't get into politics, because I'd have to pick one side or another. I'm trying to get
Wes,
go ahead.
Yep.
I mean, like for your influences, I'm wondering, were you influenced by any chance, like Eon Flux? What's the book? The Trip Guide to Galaxy something, I forgot.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
Thank you. Yes, Hitchhiker's Guide, and then another one. It kind of reminds me of Monty Python-ish a little bit, like looking at your thing. What were your influences?
I've watched Monty Python a lot of my life. I don't know that I'm at that level or even channel that too much. Maybe at moments with the absurdity, but never. I don't even view it so much as a comedy. Like there's a lot of fun in the comic, but I don't write it particular as a comedic comic. But it's very situational. But as for influences, that's a great question because it's really all over the map. Because one of the biggest things I wanted to do is when writing the issues, I really was trying to get back to individual issues and episodes. So I really try to make every single issue stand on its own, just like comic books from basically before the 2000s.
Yeah.
So each issue stands on its own, except for issues 5 and 6. That is a 2-part story, so they do run together. But yeah, story-wise, it's just pulling from everything. Like I said, Ninja Turtles, because I think it's right in that same vein of crazy, not so much mutant, but very much action adventure and absurd.
Doctor Who? How about Doctor Who?
Yeah, maybe. I came to Doctor Who late in life. It was like in the last 10 years or so, which is about the time I started creating Sasquatch. So that could very well be a subconscious influence, because it was all kind of starting at the same time. My fandom with that and Sasquatch. So I hadn't put that together, but yeah, that could definitely be an influence. Somebody else had pointed out that, there's some Farscape similarities, which I totally missed, because I saw Farscape a long time ago, and then I made through Sasquatch. And issue 1, there's a lot of echoes to Farscape, which I didn't get at first, and then when it was pointed out, I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta accelerate things and change things up, so I'm not doing Farscape, because I like Farscape, but I don't want to recreate Farscape. So
They did that already.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
sometimes
that's
you love
definitely an
something.
influence. Star Wars, Star Trek are big loves of mine, but
Firefly.
yeah, pulling in fun,
Firefly.
sci-fi, fantasy. Just I don't view myself as a sci-fi writer. I'm more of sci-fantasy, if there's a distinction, because I'm not doing hard sci-fi. I'm not doing The Expanse, which is awesome, but I'm not that smart. I'm very much like, I don't know what this is, and if I go research it, I could just make it up instead.
Now, you may not be that smart, but we are going to put you on the hot seat. John W. had a really good question. We're going to let you answer it first. Like, how do you set your prices for a Kickstarter?
That was me looking at other Kickstarters. That's the blatant, honest truth, because I was like, I would charge more than $5 for a comic book? Like, that blew my mind. I was like, really? Because I come from doing monthly comic books, and comics were $3 and $4, and like, well,
Right.
$5 is pushing it. Like, but just doing the research and seeing what was successful and the price points they were running, and then doing the math, I'm like, whoa, if I make a $5 comic book, I gotta sell a whole bunch of copies to pay for printing.
Right.
Not to mention anything else. Well, I wasn't gonna sell that. So
it is true.
Math and peers.
Kickstarter comics are definitely at a premium. Our good friend Charlie Stickney, who sometimes pops in comics and comments and trolls us when he has a moment, he has a really good point. He says every Kickstarter comic is a variant cover. It is a low run. It's a variant. It's going to be something that may be the only copy of it ever made, which makes it very rare. And even if it's not the only one, it's going to be a small run. So he says, price it as a variant, and the lowest variant you see is $10, $15, $20. And then you add in shipping, and that's where you get kind of the higher Kickstarter prices. Rob, how do you decide how to do your prices?
So typically I like to do the standard, using the artist of the book. So that would be, in this case, would be Moggs, would be my standard, pricing for the $15 tier. And then from there, I do each variant cover has a lesser print run. So I base it. So I add like $5 each time to that, because of the less printing that for each variant. Oftentimes I'll kind of poll my audience. I'll take the covers and I'll put them like, my past backers, my last 2 campaigns, I put all 6 of the covers up and I said, hey, which one's your favorite? And then I kind of take which people are gauging, and then the most favorite I didn't put all the way at the end. I wanted to kind of put that in the middle, just for the fact that like it's kind of even. Like a lot of people will go to that middle instead of going up to the high. And and then for me, then it's at that point, it's kind of like I kind of give and take here and there. But then I put my very, as I set them up, and then kind of like I said, that you do that limited run, and then it makes the higher end ones more valuable because there's only, let's say, 100 of them printed, and if you have 300 people already on your Kickstarter, that could potentially be gone. So that's how I base that, and then it's kind of a compiling. So as I go, once I bundle them, then there's a higher tier, and then you keep bundling until you get to the really crazy high tiers.
No, absolutely. All right, we're going to get back into Sasquatch a little bit. Kevin says, I can't wait to get to issue 6. And here's the more important question. Are there plans beyond 6?
Yes. I have a pretty strong idea, I think, to start volume 2. In the meantime, I have a couple other projects in the works that are going to come out before the next round of Sasquatch, which is a dual purpose. One, to stretch some other creative muscles, but also 2, to hopefully raise some extra money to pay for art for Sasquatch Volume 2. Because my artist for Volume 1, Gabe, who's astonishingly good, that was his first, and it may have been his only comic book work, and he's moved on into concept art and design, and he's currently doing stuff for Diablo and stuff like that. So I mean, the dude's a phenomenal artist. He's just gone light years above and beyond wherever he started when he was an understudy for Harvey Talbot. And
I mean, even when I first saw when you first came out with him, I'm like, this is quality stuff. Like he looked legit like he was working for Marvel or DC, and I thought maybe it was, until I read more about him. I'm like, no, the quality is awesome.
Yeah, he's studying under Harvey, and Harvey Marvel, DC, and all that stuff, and so he's one of the dudes in Harvey's studio, and Harvey sent me kind of examples of everybody's art. It's like, I like that guy's art because he's kind of a mix of Mike Wieringo and Umberto and Joe Mad and all these dudes. Not really any of them, but all of them combined, and just had a great style. And of course, he's moved on, and all the best to him. Unfortunately, I have to find somebody else now.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse to have amazing artists, because
I don't know how you follow him. Who do I get? I don't know. Who do I get? Can I afford to?
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm gonna steal Carlos from Rob, though. That dude killed it on that crossover piece.
I think we're all trying to introduce ourselves to Mog as the first person, but everybody that Rob works with is pretty great. All right, so we've got a cool question from Dubious Roleplay, and we were just talking about costing, so I'd like to get into that before we kind of hop into Snowpop. So this might be a little inside the numbers, but that's what the show is for, and that's absolutely, this show is for whatever you want to find out about. So absolutely, if you're bringing in guest artists, do variant covers really make back the cost of the art with 4 to 6 variants. I'm going to table myself out of this because I haven't done this, but I know Will, Rob, and I just saw Wes have. So what do you guys, you do it, so obviously you believe it will. What do the numbers say?
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, especially if you're doing it with a limited print run and you're bumping up the cost of the shorter runs, those pay for themselves and make up for the $5, $15 comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Rob is right. It's if you're trying to raise $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to cover the cost of a book, because you want to pay an artist a living wage, as much as you can, then really the only way to get that average pledge level up so that you don't have to have 1,000 backers or 500 backers is the variant covers. And I really feel like it, not only does it, get that average pledge level up, but as a creator, it's cool as hell to have other artists interpret the work. I mean, don't get me wrong,
Right.
Pablo is an awesome artist, and I love working with Pablo. But getting Kath Lobo or Jen St. Ange, or who else did I have last time? Yasmin Flores Montañez.
Oh, Yasmin.
And then Alice the Clerk, who's going to be doing some art for us on issues 3 and 4. So yeah, I mean, I just love working with artists. So, maybe if it didn't work, I'd probably still do it, but it works, so I'm still going to do it.
I mean, I haven't stopped.
I like to treat it like Moneyball, where I have this small organization that doesn't have a lot of money. So how do I use the limited amount of money that I have to make the biggest footprint? And so I try to find people who are going to do. I mean, look, right here we've got Mog Park in the house. She is happy to come out, talk about the book. That is an amazing. That's already an amazing expenditure, because you've got the artist willing to come out, talk about it, push the book, all that kind of stuff. Anytime you can get that done, I mean, it's hard enough just getting your main artist to do that, which congratulations and thanks for coming out. But also being able to get your variant artists to be able to talk about it too, and if they can share it with their audience and show it off, that's huge. So, and I mean, and that's also realizing that you're probably going to have some leftovers, so you get to bring those to shows, and you get to go, oh man, I worked with this person and that person, and you get to talk about the stuff that they did. Like, we were lucky enough for Belial to have a Thomas Tenney cover. So anytime anybody comes over and they're talking about the horror aspect, my book's not necessarily horror, but I've got the dude who did the art for Creepshow. Like,
He's the king of horror.
I mean, that just works out so great. And they're like, oh, really? And they get excited. They look at that cover, and then they start flipping. And, that just getting them to be able to pick it up and flip through, it was worth it. So, yeah, man. And I'm coming from a guy who didn't buy variants before. Now that Kickstarter's making it a little easier to find them and be interested in them and get them, then yeah, sometimes I'll do them, but still, I'm there for the story. But variants work, man. They just work.
Yeah. And Will has said too that one thing, he likes to have 4 variants because it makes it easy for someone to like 2 of the variants so much that they have to buy all 4, which is a lovely way to get that Kickstarter up.
The lighting was perfect for that, by the way.
Anvu, thank you for joining us. There was one little thing I want to get to. Kevin said, and I believe this is to you specifically, Wes, if you're ever looking for a sketch card artist, please hit me up. Sorry for the pitch. That's okay. We are definitely going to allow people to put themselves out into the universe on this show, because guess what? That's what we're doing. He says he loves the character and has been working for Topps for almost 8 years now and other trading card companies. So I wanted to make sure that got out there, Kevin. Keep drawing the beautiful stuff.
I've actually Sasquatch. I actually got me back into drawing. I haven't drawn in years and years and years just because time. And I started drawing at conventions and started doing sketch cards for Sasquatch myself. Like, oh, this would be fun. So
that's great.
It's been good, man. Like it's this project's just kind of opened up all new doors and excitement and reignited the love that had kind of waned from massive burnout. And it's been so fantastic just to get back into the creative aspect and focus on my creations and not so much trying to do the grind of everybody else's stuff, which had beaten me down so bad.
Yeah. So basically you're saying you're one of those terrible, awful humans that can write and you can draw.
Not that well. Like I'm being really, really generous saying
Okay.
I'm sticking to like headshots, bro. Like beyond that, my foreshortening sucks. So hey, give me shoulders up. I'll be okay.
I've seen Will and I's thumbnails. We still are looking at you a little side-eyed.
Yeah.
So Mike says, I'm mostly in it for the story, and I rarely buy multiple copies. You know what? That's great. As a Kickstarter creator, that's why Rob has Mog's cover as his cheapest version, because the interior artist's cover should be the one that the most people get, because the interior artist is the soul of the book. That's, you know what? If you're going to come out and support my campaign or any campaign here, we just want you to get what you want, what makes sense to you.
Yeah.
And we want to give you a reason to get out of your comfort level, but we don't want you to get out of your comfort level. So that's great. Get whatever you want. And I think I can say that unanimously. We're happy for whatever support makes you happy, because we want you to come back for the next campaign.
I want to ask Mike Bankston. He and I are buds. I want to ask him a follow-up to his question, because Mike supports so many, him and his wife Trish, they're on so many Kickstarters. They're absolutely amazing. By the way, guys, they've got their own book coming out. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've heard and seen really good. I draw Mean Spider. Yeah, okay. All right, fair enough. That's the one thing that's the one drawing I've ever had published. Thank you, buddy. That's true. But he supports an awful lot of Kickstarters, and I want to ask him, yes, you only usually buy one cover, but how often is it the main cover, and how often
wait.
is
I can answer this.
Yes, see? Yes.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, he
So
bought.
variants are important.
Yeah, well, exactly. For a good example of that, my last campaign, Mike keeps talking about the witches, which was the Hedwin Zalazar cover, which was the higher tier cover.
So let's take a second and get into a deeper dive. Like as Chuck said, we have Mog out here. We have, like, writers get to do this a lot. We kind of talk a lot, and I like to say that we're the quarterbacks of the book, and that we get too much credit because we become the mouthpiece. But the artist is the heart and the soul of any book, because it does not exist without the artist, and we have one. So let's get into Snowpop for a second. Mog, Rob, how did you guys? We already heard the pitch, but how did you guys get together as working on Snowpop while I pull up the campaign?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. She's working.
Yeah.
So I had been following her just because I've seen her covers, those unique samurai looking like X-Men or superhero covers that she does on the sketch covers, and shortly after I had started following her, I was on Henri Campaign's live signing with Henri. I was the first test subject for that, and so he had bought a bunch of copies off of me of Nightwolf. I think it was issues 1 through 4 at the time, and then I signed them, and then sent them to him, and I think he bought like 3 full sets, and then he bought like issues or a couple 1 and 2s. So they had to come to me for like the rest of them after that, and I think Mog had been watching that show because they're on the same network, that shopping network. So they kind of have like a little bit of close family there. They watch each other's stuff. And I just happened to be lucky that she was watching the one that I was on, and she bought a couple, I think issue 1 and 2, I believe, off of Ornery, and then had to buy 3 and 4 off of me. And so that's kind of like how we kind of got connected that way. And then her and Mel, her husband, both commented on how much they enjoyed the series. I think I even remember Mel legit like was typing, I'm vested now. So like I was like, all right, cool. So and you know, Kevin and Will, you know that like I had been planning the spinoff for over a year. I mean, at that point, I think it was probably about a year and a half that I was like deep into it. And by the time it was shortly after that, I had finished the script and I had sent it to Katrina Rhodes, who is my editor on the project, and she finalized it. So then I approached Mog about it, and I said, "Hey, read this. Let me know what you think. I know you liked Nightwolf. This series is 19th century Scotland. You know, it's an origin story for the female werewolf." And they're, you know, again, back to that's what she said.
So I'm in.
Yeah. So you know, we did a couple like sketches about, you know, where my mind was going, where I wanted it to go, and I also kind of carried over a little bit of what like Carlos had done, because you know, with him being the Nightwolf illustrator, and he took my original character designs that I did, and then he made them into what they are today. So, you know, kind of working that into it as well. You know, I was like, hey, I want you to make it your own. But here's the examples. Here's the establishment. Now make it in your fashion of the time period, and you know, let's go with it. So we finally got to a point where, you know, we both were very happy with the character design and the look of the book. And she did a couple test pages I instantly fell in love with. And they were just roughs. I mean, they weren't even like the full blown page. I mean, just seeing her roughs, it was, you know, it was definitely a match made in heaven, you know, or to whatever, you know, God we pray to.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it just was like, and it happened to be right place, right time. She happened to be open for commissions, and amazingly, like I am her first sequential job.
Really?
Oh wow!
Are you kidding me?
No.
Wait a second.
And she could tell you all about that. Like
Wait. I'm getting up to something.
I mean, look at. Okay, this is your first sequential work.
Yes.
Wow. No, I mean, I first of all, I'm flabbergasted that the art I'm seeing is someone's first sequential pages, because it's gorgeous. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about what really comes out to me in your art is the way you use the different widths of the weight of the lines to really pull something off of the foreground and the background. Where did that awareness come from? Is that something that you just do naturally? Where did that come from?
I think some of them is my illustration background, but mostly it was Rob. He said, "Hey, this line is not clean enough. Do it again." So I was like, okay. Hey, this line is blah blah blah. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Mog,
so in a way, I gotta give credit to Rob. He shaped me.
just let me say that, you know, when you get tired of his mistreatment, there are lots of writers out there who'll be really, really nice to you. Okay.
But I'm sure there's not a lot of writers up there who will pay per page or per page on the credit card before he even has money to pay it off.
My whip is made out of licorice, just so you're aware.
So Short Circuit says they love sketch cards. Mog has put out some incredible sketch cards and more than is reasonable. So you've done sketch cards and you've done variant covers, and wow, I mean your sequentials are do not look like someone's first time. They look very professional and very thought out. Rob, when you write, do you write full script? How does the back and forth work between you guys as writer and artist?
So I do write the full script as like, so I visually write my script like I would like a movie. I put in like the panels, the camera angle, like, you know, and I probably put the terminology in completely wrong, which like her and I had to like have a full on video conversation. This is what I mean by this.
I don't understand English.
Yeah. It's not even the fact that it was like the English. It was just like, I'm probably not even using proper terms, but it was like, it was, so you know, it's like a high angle shot, wide, you know, like wide, high angle established shot of this and that, you know, like I have a full vision of how this movie is playing out in my head.
Right.
How they're talking, the speech patterns, like all of that, you know, I basically, so I'll have a panel. I'll take the page, I'll break it up into the panels. Each panel has its description, what's in the panel, what they're doing, the position of what, you know, like down to like what their arm, hand, mouth, whatever, their eyes, if they're emotional. I describe all of that. And then I have the dialogue in there per character in the like order that they're speaking, so that it kind of helps to like elaborate like what's happening in that panel or that page for that matter. And then so I do have a clear idea of what I want going into it, but I'm also open to when I hand it off, if like the artist, in this case would be Mog, if she had a better idea of camera angle, like let's say that like she's like, I can do it better this way. But typically like it's like it's a give and take at that point. It's like, okay, yes, I agree, we can do that better, let's do it that way. Or if it's about pacing or something that I'm very strict, no, it has to be this way because of the pacing or the emotion, I'll push back a little bit. But typically, like you know, if it's something that she feels strongly about making it better, or same with Carlos, I do the same kind of situation. If they can make it better, then go ahead. Or like combine a panel, or add a panel, or you know, split up the action, that kind of situation. But you know, like I said, I'll only push when I know that there's a particular reason for it.
No, I probably should have asked this of you, Wes, when we were talking about Savage Sasquatch. How do you go about writing the script and working with the artist based on you know, the freedom to do what they want, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I tend to write full scripts, and it really depends on who I'm working with, how much leeway I give or get. One of my longest time collaborators from my first comics is Craig Babiar, and he and I kind of have a shorthand. So it would get to the point where I would have a few pages that I would fully script, and then it's just like, oh, here's a 4-page action scene, and it's just like, do whatever, but I'd like to see this happen. Like, oh, I want to see this specific action at some point in 4 pages. Just let him do whatever he wants to do, which is a whole lot easier for me to write, and he does awesome work.
Right.
But like with Gabe, didn't have any kind of relationship. He was brand new to comics, so I wrote everything out, and I'm very open to ideas and interpretations. Like, hey, if you've got other ideas you want to do, but I mean, like he just followed it by what I wrote, which is great, except for, you know, the panel when I wrote the wrong character's name. So I had to go back a couple months, like, oh, that's totally the wrong panel and character. What is this here for? I wrote that. Oops. So hey, here's some money. Can you draw something else?
Can you draw what I was thinking and not what I told you to do?
And that's what I love about Trello, is that like, so the way I work with that so we can catch that kind of stuff. Like if I totally fuck something up, we can catch that in like when we have it like the Trello board up. I'm like, wait, that's not how it. Then I can go back and be like, oh, whoops, or or just in general, like we can see what's happening each page to make sure that, you know, we're sticking with it.
But Wes has Chuck now, so that's Chuck's problem. He has to catch that.
I love it. I feel like I'm a paralegal. I go through every word, every single word he says. He writes, and then I would draw it out, and then I plan everything. I would write every note and highlight everything, and then I'll match everything. So it's like with a fine comb, I'm just going through every word he says, just so I can catch him. I fucking love it. And it's just as Rob. Don't take it personally, Rob. I love it.
You know what? I'm glad you're a stickler for detail, because that's as one myself, I can appreciate it.
Oh, hey.
So
Wes, let me say,
ultimately, when I work with an artist, I value their input because I'm hoping they can do it better than I can visualize it.
Yeah.
So just by all means, like, hey, dude. Now, again, there are times when it comes to pacing or beats and like, well, I kind of need this for this reason, and you gotta kind of put your foot down. But like, yeah, bring on the ideas. Whoever worked with me, I'm very much like want you to make me look better than I am.
Yeah,
Wes, I have one quick thing for you, Wes.
Sure.
Let me just say I'm with you on that hill. Typing is hard, really hard. Okay.
No one has enough sensitivity to us overworked writers.
When you add dyslexia to your belt, then you come talk.
Yeah. That's why with Rob, you know, I'm kind of lenient.
Once I'm done, it goes to my wife, and then it goes to the editor.
That's why. Because I couldn't really find any spelling mistakes with you, so.
Like I said, because it's filtered through two people before it reaches you.
Rob has been sharing your pages with us little by little, Mug, and everyone. I don't want to kind of give up his secrets, but everyone is basically followed by, I cannot believe how lucky I am to be working with her. So I want you to hear that from
wow.
He's incredibly happy. Now, we did have two comments I want to pop in. Short Circuit did say that about you, Mog, that you've illustrated for HBO's Game of Thrones and a short stint at Tokyo Pop. And Anvu said, well, these are, her first published sequentials, first published sequentials, but maybe not her first time drawing pages. And yet, so I'm sure you've got amazing amount of experience with illustration. And it's obvious, but the way the eye can follow your art from left to right with the story, an amazing illustrator does not always have that eye to do that. So that's what I'm impressed with, as much as the clean beauty of the art, but the storytelling is right there.
Wow. Kevin.
Panel to panel is so. I mean, you've got. I was looking through the sample pages because somebody hasn't sent me a full PDF of it. Anyway,
actually, I did send the group. That link was to all of you guys.
Wow.
Not
Mic drop. Boom.
Wow, Rob. How could you?
Will and I demand individual PDFs.
Yes. Darn it.
Different watermarks.
If someone else got the PDF, it's not special enough for us.
Well, you know what? I also blame the fact that we bust each other's balls throughout, so it probably got lost in chat.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
the panel-to-panel storytelling is so important in page design, and you just make it look so effortless. I mean, really, it's excellent. I just don't know what else to say. It's awesome.
This, by the way, is all true and completely sincere, and also our way of trying to get more artists to come on and talk about their comics.
Yeah.
We're going to fawn over artists because, you know what? F you writers. We're writers.
That's right.
Writers suck.
We totally suck.
I have to give credit to Rob again. He's the writer. He did, what do you call it? You say full script?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So stop complimenting me. Compliment this dude below me.
You know what? God bless Rob for his entire universe, putting it together. Every comic book is extraordinarily difficult to get from idea to something you hand somebody. Writer, artist, colorist, letterer, editor, beta reader. if you're involved with making a comic and that comic is finished, you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
Because it is extraordinarily difficult to do. It just happens to be, in my opinion, one of the pieces of art that is not cheap, but doable financially. Like when I decided to do comics, it was like, well, I can spend a year writing a screenplay and then come up with $800,000 for anyone to see it. Or I can spend a month coming up with an issue of a comic and come up with $2,000 to $6,000. I think I can come up with $2,000 to $6,000.
I could do that.
It's the $794,000 that is intimidating.
Which
so
is funny. He said month to like he can do it in a month. Where I'm like, it took me a year to get that.
Yeah, Rob. Yeah, but I actually have a question. This is like a business side question.
Mhm.
I think the reason why maybe you guys don't have the artists come and do these things often, maybe it's because you guys go what do you call it? Outsource, so they don't speak English very well. Is that it?
You mean like an international like?
Yeah, you outsource because they're cheaper labor and all that. Is that why?
Well, when it comes down to it, every comic book is different. Some artists are American, some artists are outside. Will and I have seen some amazing Kickstarter projects. There was a book this week that Will pointed out to me, and I had decided not to contact them because they're in Europe. Because I knew if we're starting at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time,
They'd be in bed.
they're going to have to be waking up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So I didn't even reach out. So there is something to that. There's also just the fact that it's a bit, and I don't want to say this to you, Mog. Can you like close your ears? It's a bit of the fact that you have to spend so much more hours drawing a page of comics than a writer has to do writing that page of comics, that the marketing does tend to go on the writer because we don't put the man hours into the page that you do. So we kind of need to, in my opinion, we need to pull the weight on the marketing side in that way. I think there's also a little bit of self-selecting. Many artists would prefer to quietly be drawing, and writers. I love this. Will and I do this every week because we did this during our Kickstarter campaigns, and we were like, well, why should we stop just because we don't have a campaign? This is fun. Mm-hmm. I've never talked with Wes before. I've talked with Chuck and Rob. I've never talked with you or Wes, and I'm having a blast. So it's self-selecting as well as, you know what, you work harder. We need to market. And that's it. Am I close, guys?
I mean, I would say, and I think a lot of times too, like artists tend to be a little bit more reserved, and like you're saying, they would rather just sit and draw. Even if you go to like Artist Alley, you can see the artists who are just got their heads down and they're drawing while people are looking at their arts, while like the writers are like, hey, check this out. Hey, come on, do you like comic books? If you don't, why are you here? So it is that I think we talk more. In a sense, and it's rare to have an artist that is very outgoing and talkative and is willing to promote as well. Like, I mean, I would bring Carlos on, but I'm sure there'd be a language gap, like Bob was saying. It wouldn't, for him, it would be frustrating. And I think he does a lot of like promotion on like Facebook and Instagram for me. Even for this campaign, he was promoting it as well, like on his channels. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah, so I mean, it's nice to be able to still have that, and if you can find like an artist who is willing to do that, that's great. Matter of fact, like I remember, I think I had Chris Williams do one we were doing an auction for one of his variant covers. It was his first live video that he'd ever done, and he was nervous as hell.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it has to do with maybe people who draw tends to want to be by themselves or something. don't really talk.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and I've met
Yeah.
Chris at a con. Like he and I are both from Pennsylvania, but he's the Philadelphia side, and I'm on the Pittsburgh side. So when I went to the Philadelphia con and I met him, like he had one of his friends doing the selling, while he had his head down drawing. You know, so I mean, that's you know, like I think that's a common thing.
Mhm.
So short circuit. I'm going to say this right at one point tonight, or I'm not.
Johnny Five.
I'm getting deeper into the wine, so maybe that was a really, really aggressive way to lie to you guys. But Short Circuit says there are incredible artists from Asia, Europe, and South America. Amazing talent.
Yes.
The internet
That's so
has made this so beautiful to be able to work with people you would never meet. And as a writer with a French artist on my book,
Oof.
I can send him an email when I go to sleep at midnight and I wake up at 9 a.m. And he sent me some like, well, I'm thinking maybe this, that, or the other thing. And it's like, I went to sleep and all this work was done. So it's this beautiful way of cheating time as well as, as
well, I got to experience that with you a little bit. Mog, if you didn't know, Kevin, his artist and co-creator is Ludo, who did the one variant cover with Snowpop with the two wolves and the kind of the
Yeah. Like this pose.
that's his artist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's I got to experience that a little bit with him with the European thing.
I'll see if I can grab it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Gat, like he's in South Africa, so he's my colorist on Nightwolf, and like I swear he doesn't sleep. And then with Carlos though being in South America, he's in Chile, so he's about the same time that we are, or at least roughly. And then so Mog is like for me like like she gets up, like I'm always up early, but she doesn't wake up until like my afternoon. And then she's messaging me when I'm sleeping.
And sometimes like, damn it, he went to sleep.
We do have to do a quick shout out too to Kyle Roberts, a friend of the show. Amazing variant cover as well. So I just ran past that.
And Bruna Costa, who
man.
is Brazilian,
Bruna's so
she is our colorist for the book. She also colored Kyle's cover.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah, and that's something that I wanted to ask, kind of about the colors a little bit, because, I mean, they're so lush and they really, really complement Mog's art so well. Is that her talking to both you and Mog, or is it just her and Mog forming this Unimind thing that produces this awesome stuff? Or how does that work?
Honestly, I don't think Mog and Bruno have ever talked. I mean, maybe like through Facebook, I don't know. But no, yeah, I have my Trello boards. And that's how, I mean, I'm on my phone communicating with all of them at the same time. I'm like, and,
Explain yourself. Brought to you by Trello.
I tried once talking to her. I said, "Hey, Bruno, thank you so much. You did lovely work. If you need any help, just talk to me directly." And she's like,
I think she hearted it. Yeah, she hearted it and said thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I love your work too. And then that was it. The end.
Yeah.
We never talked.
She did ask me though if like you were open to commissions for like I guess one of her friends when I was interested, and I was like, you'd have to ask her. I don't know.
Oh yeah, she did try to introduce me to get more work or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's the amount of conversation that they've had.
Yeah. That's it.
Speaking of colors, because Wes is known very much as a colorist. He's done work for Marvel, DC, Image, like all sorts of stuff. That's very much what he does. I was actually going to ask him, because this is something that I've never asked him at all. But because you do all the colors for Sasquatch, right, Wes?
Yeah.
So when you do when you write a script or you create a series or something, do you already kind of have the color scheme sort of in your head? Like, do you have an idea of sort of what that's going to look like, since you have the sentimentalities of both a writer and a colorist?
Sometimes. When I wrote issue 4, I knew I was probably making the hardest job of my life. Like, this will be really, really cool.
Did you curse the writer a lot? Did you curse the writer a lot?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, how do I do this where I don't have to do this?
Writer West is a dick.
Like, this is what artists talk about. Like, oh, it's so easy for you to write this, but then you have to do it.
Oh man. But before I even approached Mog for like the art, like I had already known I was going to be doing the spinoff. Like I actually asked Wes if he wanted to do the colors. But then he was like, "No, man, I'm too busy."
It was more like, what's your
but he was a lot nicer than that.
Right now, it's more about deadlines. He's like, you want this done at some point, right? I don't know. Because I'm a stay-at-home dad right now with my 2-year-old, so it's just like when I work, it's just a couple hours at a time here or there, either before everybody's awake or during nap time.
I know how that
it's
is.
like,
Yeah.
well, there's jobs I have that I have to do, which aren't many, and then there's other stuff. So it's like full books. It's, well, yeah, if you can feed me pages piecemeal over a few months, let's do it. But if you give it to me in a month and you want it, no, not right now.
So I have a quick question for you, Wes, as a colorist. Did you start out traditional, on with traditional, coloring tools, on paper, or did you start out digital and or is there some weird transition there, or because again, me am writer, me don't know anything.
I think I had some crayons as a kid.
Okay.
No. I mean, I played around coloring with markers and stuff like that in high school when we were all like, oh yeah, look what I drew, trying to outdo each other at our little round table of nerddom. But no, it was pretty much straight digital. For my graduation from high school, my brother hooked me up with a bootleg copy of Photoshop 5.5, and I started just playing during the summer on my own. Like, hey, this is kind of fun, coloring my drawings and finding terrible line art scans online, like 72 DPI crappy files. I didn't know anything about print at that time. I was like, oh yeah, look at this Joe Mad Ninja Turtles piece. That's awesome. I'm gonna color that.
And then somebody's like, I have to look really
little
close.
did I know it'd print like that if I actually printed it. But sit there for an 8-hour stretch. Like, yeah, this is cool.
But for back then when the web was like those things, like they actually were bigger. Now it's like the screens are so high depth. They're like.
Oh yeah, dude. From when I started to now, everything is completely different. Like I'll be 40 in March. I started when I was 20. So it's like professionally. That's when I started professionally. And it's just like Rob's talking about Trello boards. I'm like, isn't that thing people use to chat in video games? Like my buddy Tony uses that, I think. I don't know what he's talking about. When I started, it was all the guys I work with is like the work. Just let the work speak for itself. Social media was like, hey, people were just putting a bunch of music on MySpace and annoying everybody that went there. Nobody used it.
It's a very important point by You Can Draw with Steph Wilson and Carrie Ann. Artists are way cooler. Artists get all the chicks. So if you're a youngin, sit down and put the time into drawing, not writing. So
I guess I get all the chicks. Yeah.
There you go.
I have a lot of chicks.
Less.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a writer doesn't mean I don't know a little thing or two about something.
But you're cheating, Rob, because you have an art degree. So
I do have an art degree. That's true.
Yeah.
Now, Joey Galvez says every time he sees Chuck on these, he wants to talk about marketing those headphones. Are these Pinot Originals.
Exclusive. And, you know what? In all honesty,
I wanted to say it to rhyme with Pinot Grigio, like Pinot Originals, but I couldn't figure out how to do it.
That was like the first time like Chuck and I like had a live together. Like, you know, with me, like I couldn't read his name because it's like, you know, with the dyslexia issue, like so I'm like, all right.
Why not? It has like every vowels. There's
there's
vowels in Chuck's name that don't exist in English.
Yeah, there's no phonetic spelling this. There's no, you know what I mean? So he was like, oh, it's like, you know, like the wine. And I'm like, oh, Pinot Grigio.
I actually wanted to change my name to Chuck Pino and sometimes Y, just so I could get all of them in there.
There's like a Canadian wolf in your name, and I don't understand what that is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, EAU just means water. It's O. I mean, and it's like French is so ridiculous. My last name literally has more than or right around a dozen different ways to spell it.
Really?
And yeah, it's ridiculous. And like they just throw consonants on the end. So I have a buddy. His name is Pineault, and I'm like, what? How? That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, the French are ridiculous with spelling. They're just like, oh, we could do this different, and then they'll just like throw some other letters on there.
As somebody who would not be here, have a career in comics, and wouldn't have met any of you, and would not exist in comics without a Frenchman, I take offense. And,
as a Frenchman, it's true.
My comics career is based on having accidentally met an amazing artist from France. So, you know, like, viva la révolution.
Yeah. So these things, I actually got them because a good buddy of mine, we would play like Braden Cox is a good friend of mine. He's also a comic creator.
Chuck. Language.
You're gonna have to say that a lot with me. He and I actually work with him. I've edited some of his books, but we're also good friends. We play Fortnite together. And at one point, my headphones died, and I was like, "Look, I can play with you, but there just won't be any voice." And about 2 weeks later, these bad boys showed up. And I was like, oh, you were the sweetest thing. Like, thank you so much. But I told him, I said, did you pick the pink on purpose? And he's like, does it bother you? I was like, no. I think it's hilarious, and I'll gladly wear them because they're really good.
You know what? It's October. It's the perfect timing.
Yeah.
I was like, did you pick the pink on purpose? And he's like, no, that's just, that was the color that was left. And I really like pink. I was like, okay, great. My brother did that to me once. I told him, you know, he got this really cool MP3 players when that was a thing. And I was like, dude, where'd you get that? And he's like, yeah, I got it from this warehouse. It's like $20. I was like, great. So I was like, here's $20. You know, when I see you next weekend, can you bring me one? He's like, yeah. And he brought me like the brightest, hottest pink one he could find. And I was like, why'd you do that? And he's like, because masculinity is a thing. I was like, all right, yeah, I'll own it. Let's do it, man.
So Trish, and I'm going to guess based on what you say, I'm going to guess it's Trish Benkson. You think you have a hard time with your last name, try ours, which reminds me in college, there was a girl who lived one floor under me. Her name was Margie. And Margie was wonderful. She was a great person, really smart, really cool, really pretty girl, and had no time for me as anything other than friends. So the story doesn't go there. She was just great. And you know, you're talking. Margie, what's your last name? Oh, I don't tell anybody my last name. What? I mean, what do you mean? I don't. Margie, what are you talking about? What's your last name? And she got really serious, and she was rarely serious. She says, I don't tell anyone my last name. Okay. And for months, I was friends with Margie, and I did not know her last name. And I'm just going to kind of type this in because it takes a moment. And so I was in Margie's room with her roommate, Jen, and we were talking, and I looked down, and remember those Columbia CDs where you could, you know, get like 7 CDs for a penny?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, there was Jenny had picked up mail for her, and it was sitting on Margie's side of the table, which, because I was with Jen, I was on Margie's side. And I looked down at her Clumpy, and I kind of looked at it for a second. Whoops! I wrote down Margie. Let me edit this. The wine's kicking in, guys. That's why I'm telling a 19-year-old story.
What kind of wine are you drinking?
I think this might be a Pinot. Let me see. Sorry, Chuck. Red Zinfandel.
Okay.
But my two favorite are Red Zins or Pinot Noir. So yeah, I looked at it, and at first it really seemed perfectly fine until I kind of sounded it out. Taking some time here, and this poor girl in the 1990s, around a bunch of immature people like me's name was Margie Stanko.
I have a few that actually two girls I went to school with that I could probably almost top that, or at least. Should I type it in the chat, or should I? All right. I'm sorry if either of you are watching this.
I don't think they are. I mean,
who knows?
Mog is the
problem.
Yeah, Mog is extremely cool, and we appreciate her. She's giving us more cred than we deserve by just being here. So, but other than that,
all right. Well, one girl that I graduated high school with and was is a friend of mine. Her name was Summer Bollich.
I don't get it.
I don't either. Summer what?
Can you write it down?
Summer Bollich. So the boys would always say that we had a case of the Summer Bollich.
Oh, you got to hit the itch.
Yeah,
on the
Ball itch.
Ball itch.
Ah.
Yeah. And then there was also, and this one's even worse. And I feel terrible for her, but and she's a good girl.
Anyone with these names is a wonderful person who's dealt
They have to be
more than any of us know.
And this one is Spring on Dick.
Spring on Dick?
Yeah.
No, that was a long-term prank on all of you. Her name was not Spring on Dick.
It was.
No,
Yes.
no, you fell for it.
I swear to God.
You fell for it.
You've been on candid camera for 25 years, Rob.
Going back to
I graduated with her brother James, who changed his name to Mike on Dick. I'm not really sure why, but
Wait, so going back to the Bollich girl. Was she hot at least? I mean, her name was Summer.
Yeah, they both were. I mean, they both were very pretty girls, and
Mog. I don't want to be too personal. You never go back to Bollich girl.
You never go back to Bollich.
Never go back to Bollich girl.
Wow! I am so sorry if you guys are watching.
Except for Spring on Dick.
See, I wanted to name my kids Hala and Philip, because I thought jalapeno and Filipino would be awesome. And my wife was not having that, and I was like, okay, I get it. Look, I get it. Middle names, and she's like, no. I'm like, middle names. Come on. No, would not allow it. But I really fought for jalapeno and Filipino so hard. I really did.
The jalapeno is the funniest name I've ever heard. I wish you would have done it. It's beautiful.
Dude, I tried so hard. I really did. But my problem was I wanted to have sex again. And so I was like, I see how this is going to go, and I will fight this as far as I can, but there's definitely a point, and I couldn't win that round.
When we didn't know that we were having a daughter, we were kind of going through the names for boys and girls, and my name is Kevin Robert Joseph, and luckily my
the man with the three first names.
That's it.
Kevin Robert Joseph.
So it was going to be blank Joseph, but somehow we've lucked out. Both of our fathers' names are James. And they both named their firstborn sons, both of our older brothers, middle name James. So if it was going to be a boy, the middle name could be James, and we got out both fathers and both siblings, and we were done. So we knew that it was going to be blank James Joseph. And so we were kind of going through the male names that it would be, but we couldn't find one that didn't make us laugh. Like, we were like, maybe we could name the kid LeBron James Joseph. Or how about King James Joseph? Jesse James Joseph. We are so lucky we had a girl because we couldn't come up with a name that wasn't a joke like jalapeno. So, and welcome to Explain Yourself, where we're talking names as usual.
You know what, though, that kind of goes to the point, like, as writers, when we're coming up with names for characters, like, you have to be kind of like cognizant of like what you're calling your characters.
How do you do that? That is always so difficult for me. How do you guys come up with names?
So for like a lot of like for Snowpop, for example, actually came for, like, a lot of my things come from personal experience as far as like just things that I hear or whatever. Snowpaw's name, as far as like her real name, or her, like, her short version, Saray, was a bartender that I had met at one of the my band played at a show at one of the local dives, and there was this gorgeous girl, and she said her name was Saray, and I was like, that's a unique, amazing name. I didn't know how to spell it, and she never told me, but I kind of reverse engineered it with what I thought it would be like, and then I kind of was like, okay, well, maybe that's short for Cirilla, and kind of played it off that. So that's a lot of like how things, hearing cool names or something that like pop or work, or I don't do like the Peter Parker, the kind of stuff, but that's typically like it, or if it caters to like the character type, and that's kind of like with Nightwolf. When I named him Nightwolf, it wasn't because I loved Mortal Kombat. It was because like him being this kind of hybrid between like the good and the bad werewolf. It was like his pelt was like it was a white pelt covered in night.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where so that's kind of like where his name is kind of given to him as Nightwolf.
So with Savage Sasquatch, you're out in space. Do you kind of pull into kind of more normal names, or do you find yourself running sci-fi with it, Wes? And how do you kind of rein in your impulses and find exactly how you want it to be?
Oh, it goes pretty sci-fi. I mean, issue 1, we introduced Fleeg and Trax. So they just, I don't really have a methodology for names. I wish I did, because it's something that has proven challenging at times, and then sometimes it just like a word or even a sound will stick in my head, and I just kind of like, oh, that'll be cool. Like, of course, that's Trax. Of course it is. It's just nothing else it could be. And that one came really quickly, and I don't know where it came from. Whereas like Captain Brenner comes from the printer that used to print the comics for Anarch Press when I was working there. Their local printer, and did a lot of business, and I was there about every week picking up books and hauling them. So it's just like Brenner was just a name. It's like it has a good sound for kind of an authoritative figure. So it's like, yeah, that works, and it just sat in the back and kind of moved forward. There's new projects that names just maybe playing off other people, like Rob met somebody. It's like, oh, that's a name that just kind of sticks. I mean, I don't have anything quite as unique as Saray, if I said it correctly. I don't think I've met anybody with that unique a name, because that's a new one.
Because Trax is normal.
But I live in Texas, so we don't get that experimental, I guess. I don't know.
Well, so speaking of like coming up with crazy names and stuff, so like in the next issue, I created a creature, kind of like my con assistant and I, sitting around at the Wizard World Con, which was our last one before like everything got shut down. We were sitting around like trying to figure out about like this creature that helps like the steampunk dwarf that I'm going to be introducing into the series. And I always there's this place in Ohio that my wife always used to go get her hair done, and it was Chargan Falls, but it was spelled really weird with like a CH, and but it's called, I think it's actually pronounced Sugar and Falls, but I always called it Chargan because of the way it looked to me. And so like we were joking, we're like, well, what would you call the people from that town? And I'm like, they'd be called Charganites. and we both looked at each other like, that's the name for this little creature that we are injecting into the story. So it's a little Charganite. It's like I say, it's just funny. Like, you know, when you were spitballing and having a good time and joking off, and like when something actually clicks.
Yeah.
I love etymology.
It just gets hard when you come across something that sounds really similar to what you did, and it's like, oh, yeah, I don't have any relation to that, because there's a new project I'm toying with maybe changing a name, because I didn't see Frozen until like 6 months ago because my daughter wanted to watch it.
It's okay. It was a pretty small movie. Not many people saw it.
Yeah, I mean,
limited release.
Not in it. Now I've watched it about 50 times. And
it gets worse.
There's a name that's like really prevalent in that movie, and it's not exactly the same, but it's similar. Like, so now I'm debating whether or not I should change it, just because the relationship, but I kind of like it, so I don't know.
Can we ask which one?
Just pull it from that. It was, no, I kind of had it before I ever even saw it, even though, yeah, it existed. I just never watched it.
Yeah.
But everybody in the world watched it except me, so I don't know if anybody will believe it.
As somebody whose daughter was 4 when it came out, can I ask which name you're saying, and I can...
Oh, it's the Arendelle.
Oh, the name of the place.
Their castle.
Yeah, the town Arendelle.
Yeah,
there's a similar name in my story, and I'm like,
shit.
Yeah, I understand that being rough, because it's pretty. Yeah, they say it enough, and it's not like Anna, which is like you can get away with
right.
Anna.
Yeah.
Most people will pronounce it Anna. You're fine. Arendelle's gonna be tough. That does suck.
Just add another A.
It's different,
Chuck,
but it's similar.
You mentioned etymology, Chuck. That's kind of where I come from too. But I mean, what?
Yeah, I love kind of taking main qualities about the characters and then kind of going, okay, so what word means, anger or repentant or whatever, and trying to find names that go with that. When it comes to something like fantasy or sci-fi, I really pay attention to the sounds, and I try to find sounds that would sort of relate me to that character a little bit. Like if you're talking about an elf, so you've got this very kind of flighty, airy sort of name that usually has lots of vowels and whatnot. If you have a dwarf, it's usually a much more heavier, kind of strong, thick name. So it's just all kind of between etymology and feeling out the sounds. That tends to be where I go, depending on the kind of thing that I'm writing.
With Belial, did you guys go back to scripture to find some of the names, or did you kind of just think this sounds demonic and bad, or was it a mix and match?
Almost all of them, actually, are and actually, so our one big breakout character was Link. He's the little imp who gets into all the trouble, and he's the main source of comedy in the book. And what I did with that one was I was looking for a character that could be a really good foil to the main character of Belial, who's the original creator of Hell. And so I'm looking for, like sub-demons and all that kind of stuff. And I came across imps, and I came across the story of Lincoln, England. In the medieval days, if you go to Lincoln, England now, the cathedrals, instead of having gargoyles, they have stone imps everywhere and all over the town. And their story in Lincoln, England, is that at one point during the medieval days, the imps flew out of hell and they started flying across the countryside, demolishing plants and wrecking the countryside and whatnot. And they went to the cathedral and they started wrecking the cathedral. They're throwing stones at the stained glass and stuff. and an angel of the Lord springs out of the Bible and starts turning them into stone. And one of the imps grabs a rock and chucks it at the angel. And he turns them into stone, and that's kind of the end of the story. And I was like, no. That's the beginning of the story. This imp didn't have a fucking shot. He was like, I'm going to throw rocks at you and start shit. And I was like, that's exactly the kind of character he is. He has no right to have any kind of superiority complex whatsoever. He has no right to, he should be completely fearful and running, and he had no right to have that courage. And I was like, that's a character. So I took him and I called him Link, naming him after the town of Lincoln.
Yeah, I think Wes, if he can get away with Link, you're fine with Arendelle. Link's been around a lot longer, so I think you're good.
Good old Zelda.
Mike does ask if Pino is Elvish, lots of vowels.
Hey, you know what? When I met Chuck, I was so surprised. Chuck is super tall. Yeah.
I'm like 5'8".
Oh, to me, you look really tall.
Oh, cool.
Whoa,
I'm gonna keep wearing those stilettos.
So, yeah,
They
maybe
worked
you are
for me.
Elvish.
Maybe.
But yeah, as a reader of like a lot of fantasy stories, please just don't do keyboard smash names, please. It's just that's all. Just to make it sound exotic. Oh my god, just don't do it. Just keep it simple, man.
Yeah, I have a tough time with the
One
demonic names, trying to figure out how to find the thing that sounds demonic without sounding like I'm really trying to make it sound demonic. And it's a push-pull, and I like the thought of going with the sound of it, but it's kind of at the end of the day, the name, it matters so much when you're writing it, and whatever you give it to somebody, people are going to either use it or they're just going to make up their own names for it anyway, and you're kind of fine. It's one of those weird things that we have to spend time on, and doesn't matter at all. I mean, Tart, my comic book is called Tart, and her name is Tart because Ludo was working on a book called Hell Strawberry, and I didn't know if I was pitching a Hell Strawberry adventure or another. So I was like, well, Strawberry, he does all these desserty images. I'll just put in a placeholder Tart. And he went, that's cool. That's what we'll call her. But let's give her an evil last name like Acid. You know, like that much thought went into our lead character's name, which is both ludicrous and perfect. And if I would have known how terrible the connotation of Tart is in England, I might not, because here Tart means kind of cute and flirty and maybe a little teasy. And in England, it means a dirty, dirty, dirty whore. And I did not know that until I told English people I was writing a comic called Tart and watched them physically back away from me.
Wow.
So ignorance can be bliss until you find out what you've actually released upon the world.
Well, I think I'm kind of in the boat with Chuck. I do like to do the etymological searches, try to find something that maybe describes an aspect of the character, and something that maybe just sounds cool. Like I don't know, you kind of, when you get to it or you get tired enough of it, you hit on it. You either, okay, I'm tired of looking, this is it now, or oh my God, this is it. This is this character. So it's kind of cool. But I mean, I wrote 30 pages of a script, and I had an insert for I think I called it Man and Woman because they were married. And I got 30 pages in before I finally decided on their names, and I went back and did a find and replace. So
yeah.
It's funny.
I do that with my Short for Plays anthology. Like the wife plays like she kind of kicks the bucket like right away in this horror anthology. So I didn't actually have a name for her until like I had to go back and like put the actual like emotion into like having like like the husband and the daughter feeling the loss. So I actually had to put a name to it.
I at one point got to interview the writers behind Dragon Age, the video game, and my wife and I love that series, and somebody ended up asking them, how did you come up for the name of the world? The name of the world being Thedas, Thedas, and I was like, yeah, I love that name. I'm interested in that, and the writers got really embarrassed right away, and we're like, the crowd's like, what's going on? Like, you could see them kind of like talking to each other, and then one of them's like, well, so the thing is that we were trying to find these amazing words, names, and actually Thedas was a name that we had tucked aside as a filler. It was never supposed to be the name of the world, and we're all like wondering why, like, this is an amazing name, and they were just like, we tried to come up with all these names, and none of them were ever better than Thedas. But the way we got the name Thedas is literally, it's the Dragon Age setting. Thedas. And we were like, holy crap! And like, we'd all been reading like enjoying this thing forever. And yeah, that's how they got the name, is the Dragon Age setting. And I was like, yeah, I get the embarrassment. I mean, it's a great name, but yeah, you don't want people to ask about that one.
That is beautiful.
Right?
That is lovely.
That's the best.
But nobody followed that one.
Yeah.
You know what? I think let's talk for another minute about each project, and then Will and I will talk about the campaigns that are still running from creators that we've already talked about. But Wes and Chuck, why don't you give us 2 to 3 minutes about Savage Sasquatch, and what's your favorite tier that you want? 2 tiers: the tier that you want the people that have been with you from the beginning to look at, and the tier, hey, you just heard about this for the first time and you're excited about.
Oh man, I don't think I have a favorite tier. I mean, I think I'm offering some pretty rad merchandise, but the books are what sells, which is my favorite part, because I want people to read my books. Like, hey, if you want to buy some merchandise, fantastic, that works. But the books, more than anything, any tier, whether it be digital or physical, it doesn't make a difference to me. Like, hey, if you want to make me really happy, just give me a bunch of money. I'm not too picky, as long as it spins. No, but I can't say I have a favorite tier. If you're brand new to it, if you want to get in cheap, I offer digital rewards. You can get all 6 issues. I even offer artist editions, which have become popular in the last decade or so, where it's the art presented in its raw black and white form. Even the pages where I still had the guides on it, the blue line, those are still on there, and it's just the lettering and the black and white line art, so you can see how awesome Gabe is, because Gabe's a phenomenal artist.
Absolutely.
And I cannot say enough positive about Gabe, and I got incredibly lucky, and it's going to be a supreme challenge to follow him for whoever, and hopefully we get lucky again and get somebody else as awesome, if it's even possible. And if you've been reading it, man, just buy the book. Any book, any tier. I offer all the covers that are available from each issue. I like all the covers. The A cover, one thing I think is really cool that I don't see too often, the A cover is by Gabe Santos, the series artist, but issues 1 through 6, cover A, is one long image. They connect. Issue 1 connects to issue 2, connects to issue 3, connects to issue 4 to 5 to 6. Yeah. So if you buy all 6 covers of cover A for 1 through 6, you get one big poster, which awesome. I think it's rad. And
now we're Will and I are always forward thinking. We are always putting things together because we strategize, we organize, and we eulogize.
Kevin, I think you're a little far into the wine at this point. Because
I'm getting farther, baby.
You know that scene in Ocean's 11 where he says you've got to run before you can walk, and then he says reverse that. I'm telling you, reverse that, okay?
We have so much time and so little to strike that, reverse it. But Savage Sasquatch and Snowpaw, you guys have a crossover, right? So can you explain, before we get into Rob, we didn't come up with it, and we should probably talk about that before we go. So what is this crossover? What do people who back both campaigns get? And I've heard about it first tonight. Will and I did this on accident, but it's a beautiful, glorious happening.
Yeah,
This
so
was the brainchild of Rob, man. Like I'll let Rob explain it because he came to me and we tried to do it a couple of campaigns ago.
We tried to do it last time. I think that just the time I guess the crossing over wasn't enough, or the timing.
Art, I think art.
Art too, yeah. Finding the artist, because at that point Carlos was so overwhelmed with stuff to do, so I couldn't approach him for it. But
Gabe had moved on, and
so with this time around, Carlos was in between issues, so I was able to approach him and say, "Hey, did you want to do it?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, it sounds like a great concept, and it was fun to do." So. Basically we did wanted to do since they're both, savage characters, wanted to make sure that it had been battle scene. It couldn't have been anything else, right?
Right.
Whereas Kevin and I had done one last year. It was like Nightwolf with Tart on his shoulders, and they were surrounded by a bunch of demons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And but that I felt like that wouldn't have made sense in this. I thought because this was more of just these two beasts
squaring off. They should square off physically.
Exactly. Yeah. And Carlos, I didn't even have to give Carlos any direction. He went down that path on his own, and I shared it was a very rough sketch that he had laid out, and Wes was like, "Let's do it."
Nice.
So the gist is, so basically, if you back both campaigns, whether it's digital or physical, so if you back us both at a digital format, you'll get the digital copy of this print, and if you back us both at a physical, you will get the physical print with your rewards from one of us, which I'll probably end up doing it just because I've been down this path and make it a lot easier for Wes, because I'm just happy to have his character as part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Carlos killed it, man. He did a great job.
I gave him your
get him to do some stuff.
Yeah, I gave him your cover, the one where he's wearing the spacesuit, all the hero pose, and like I said, I didn't have to give him any direction. Once I gave him that, he knew what he was doing.
I found it. Here it is.
Some people just get it, man. It's crazy because when I first came up and came across Sasquatch, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing ever. It has to exist, and it didn't exist. So I was like, well, let me make it.
Yeah.
I was surprised how often it's a harder sell than I thought it would be, because I'm just like, Sasquatch, Bigfoot in space, of course.
Yeah, why not?
Duh. And people are like, well, I don't get it. I don't know that it was going to be what. And pretty much most reviews, like Chuck said, when I get a review, I didn't think this was for me, and it rules. And every review is, I wasn't going to like this. I wasn't going to like this. I'm like, really? That blew my mind. And I'm just like, we live in a world of Ninja Turtles for 35 years, which is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Think all of the space things. Yeah, there's just so much to love there. Even before you and I talked ever, I was backer, way before you and I ever talked.
Oh, and Rob was the first backer on this campaign, by the way. He was number one.
I was channeling my inner Kevin.
As soon as it went live, I was like, "Oh snap!"
Yeah, well, it was. I think I had them to be looking at my phone too when I was like. Boop.
So Kevin P. West says, "Will you ever offer the connecting poster of the covers?" I I'm a little confused, and I am a little deep into the wine. I'm a little confused by the question. Do you guys
He's
understand?
talking about Wes's 6
The
covers.
cover A's, the connecting covers A from 1 through 6. So have that be a poster. I'm trying to figure that out as I've uncovered. Printing posters is stupid expensive unless you're doing lots and lots and lots of them.
Yeah.
Standard size.
In my poster, if you do it at size, it's 11 inches by 60 or 17 by 66.
Ooh,
Can you
know,
imagine
so
shipping
I
that?
can't do it at size. So if you shrink it down, it's still a weird custom size. I've been offering on the campaigns. It's gotten into stretch goals and stuff like that where I'm doing kind of postcards. So you can make a postcard version of the covers, and I'm planning on trying to remaster the coloring on those covers because I did them years ago, and this was kind of like, oh man, I do things different now than I did, 4 or 5 years ago when I first colored it. And so maybe whenever I get around to the trade, if I can figure out a cost-effective way to do that, I definitely want to. It's just
Fold out.
Fold out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would make a killer banner though for your shows. Just having all 6 right there, like that would be a killer, ridiculous banner.
That's true. Like a
What-
horizontal banner, maybe.
yeah.
Wes,
Well, see, my
Will-
tablecloth on my booth, I've got a custom printed tablecloth. It's actually his origin story. So if you come to my booth, you can read Sasquatch's origin story on the front of my table. And that's drawn by Tyler Kirkham. So it looks really nice.
Trish asks, can't you just fold the front 2 and back 2 pages? The answer is we don't know, and we're not going to figure it out tonight.
Wow. So
I mean,
cold.
honestly, I was told there would be no math, Trish. It's 12:42 my time.
The wine is talking.
I'm about to understand. Yeah. No, Wes, Will made a really good point. He kind of hit me up. He said, hey, you know what? I don't think we've asked full creative team. So we know you write it. We know Chuck edits it. Gabe is the artist, colorist, letterer. Who all works on Savage Sasquatch? Please feel free to shout out everybody who's made your book happen.
I color it. McLean McGuire is taking over lettering and is doing a great job. And like I said, Chuck edits, and my buddy Austin Rogers, who has gone kind of uncredited for a long time, kind of behind the scenes. He's been there since almost day one, just as a foil for a lot of this stuff, and has offered a lot of ideas. So I'm like, well, if I'm putting Chuck on the campaign as editor, you're going on there too. He's like, okay. So it's one of those where we've got such a great fondness and love for each other. It's just, we just do whatever. So Austin's been a phenomenal help, and from the very beginning, and he helped me not ruin issue 2.
It's funny because I've seen some of Austin notes, and I'm like, yeah, what he said. Like that's he knows what's going on.
Do that.
Yep. So, but yeah,
Cool.
other than that, that's it.
Beautiful. Rob, let's shout out the entire team, and then Mog and Rob, let's talk one last little bit about Snowpop number 1. One question that came up in my mind earlier. How long is this thought to go? Is it a one-shot, or is this more issues to come?
I mean, if this is a one-shot, people will be really sad because it leaves on a cliffhanger, like they did to do.
Will and I wouldn't know because you didn't specially gift wrap it to us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is planned as like I said, there's 200 years between. I have a lot of story to tell. It's planned to be, at least right now, it's planned as a 4-issue story arc with the ability to continue on into a full-blown series depending on the popularity. Right now I have 12 issues scripted of Nightwolf, and that's the story arc. planned on being a longer series as well. So like that's the season 1 is the 12 issues. So I didn't know like at that point like okay, well, am I going to continue doing both? Am I going to try one of my other titles? So I thought that I would have a shorter story arc for Snowpaw with the ability to continue, or even take a break and maybe come back. Like I said, it all depends on how the 4 issues are received, by that time.
No,
Well, number 1 seems
You're
to be
creating
received
the
pretty
Highlander
well.
of werewolves, right?
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
That
There
makes
can be
sense.
only 2. Night Wolf and Snowball. Sorry.
No,
I love
there cannot be
Highlander.
only one.
No, what was it? Gosh, what was it? Is Highlander the movie where it was Sean Connery,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the warrior?
Yeah.
Damn, that was
Yes.
so good.
Yeah, Sean Connery playing
Go on,
a Spaniard with the strongest Scottish accent in the history
Yeah.
of movies. He was like, "Oh, I'll do your thing, but I won't do your accent."
I know this is
He played a Hispanic.
He did do the spray tan though. I'll give him that.
And like when he called him a bendejo, I'm like, like the way he said it, I'm like, dude. I'm like, every Spanish person is looking at you like.
But he just drips charm, but
Yeah.
not. He drips charm, but not effort in Highlander. That's
Yeah.
Sean Connery.
Yeah, and then the second one, it's even worse.
But isn't that kind of Highlander as a whole? It's really charming, but I mean, I don't know how hard they really worked on that series.
Don't go bashing Highlander, dude. I love it. That's not a guilty pleasure for me, bro. I love Highlander.
I love. Okay, all right, fair
I
enough.
love Highlander too, man.
We found the line, folks. We found the line.
You can bash after just that first one is amazing.
Yeah. I'll give you this, Wes. I can feel it and I can agree because, like, in my house, my Highlander is Beastmaster, and it's like, okay, I can understand why you want to make fun of this, but this is also the best movie that ever happened. So,
bro, I got you.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I'm with you on the things that other people might not realize is the greatest and is also really cool. And Highlander is up there.
You know what?
Well,
killed
we-
me about
And
that?
I
we
actually
love
have to, like,
the
legitimately
13th Warrior.
Yes!
Talladega Nights.
Yes!
Again,
13th
was the
Warrior.
greatest movie ever made to a friend who never saw it. And it was like the highlight of my life. I know I have a sad life, but it was awesome.
It
For
was,
me, more than the main character, it was that guy, the one who died,
Oh,
the blonde guy,
yeah,
the
the
Lord.
main, he was basically Beowulf.
Yes,
Rock,
yes.
yeah.
Oh,
But
he was such a man. That's a
Oh.
really you guys.
we
You guys have
we
to
will
study,
stop and
okay?
watch. If that movie comes on, we pretty much just stop and we'll watch it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I haven't
just
seen that.
I don't know why we just love the 13th Warrior. It's awesome.
Robin
Make
Fuller
sure you
is with
guys
Mog and
live your
Will.
life like that guy.
That-
Secret to
So,
manliness, right there.
I have never seen the 13th Warrior, but this podcast is basically sponsored by the 13th Warrior because Will brings it up every other week. So basically, Microsoft Excel and the 13th
13th
Warrior
Warrior.
are
And
two
Solo.
secret our secret sponsors that don't send us any money, but they can. They're allowed to. They just
Nice,
have
brought to you by
realized.
Charlotte as well.
Yes.
It gets quoted every night at my house because our Basset Hound, he'll lay on the couch and he'll we're like, it's time to go to bed. Let's go. He's like, I'm just gonna roll over on my side. You carry me, Abe. Well, he weighs 78 pounds, so I pick him up and I'm straining a little bit, and without fail, my wife will say, from the 13th Warrior, grow stronger.
Kevin P. West asks, who does not love Highlander? We do not want to answer that question because we do not want to out people with terrible taste.
Oh.
Ooh. You know what? Also a good one. Brotherhood of the Wolves.
I don't know
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah,
What?
Brotherhood of the Wolf is awesome.
What the heck?
Rob has to pretend he knows that one.
I didn't even hear what you said.
Brotherhood of the Wolf, bro.
Brotherhood of the
The Pack
Wolves.
de Loops.
The what?
Brotherhood
Brotherhood of the Wolves.
I think that's on my to-watch list. I haven't watched it yet.
Dude, that movie's awesome. You let me down, Rob. You let me down.
Yeah, you let me down.
Wes, let's you have a 2-year-old, right? I have 3 kids. I haven't been able to watch what I wanted to watch in like 13 years.
Well, this is like 20 years ago, so no excuse.
Kevin P. West movie is Dragon Slayer. Absolutely. I can see Dragon Slayer right in that Beastmaster. Highlander, you know, from what I hear of 13 Warrior over and over and over again. No, I mean, there's these movies that are just, they're perfect. And they're not perfect because they're perfect. They're perfect because they're not perfect. And they're perfect because they're pure and they're just like, we're just going to put the coolest thing that we can afford to put on the screen, and your imagination is going to fill everything else in, and that's a perfect movie.
You're talking about my comics, bro.
And it all comes around.
You know, and that's it. But I don't think we've asked Rob. Give your whole team a shout out before we close it out.
So of course, you know, the amazing Mog Park, who's above me on the camera. She's the illustrator, and she did an amazing cover. Gorgeous painting. I mean, it's like she actually put gem paint into that cover. I mean, like, who paints with gems? I mean, come on. And then we have Bruno Costa, who is the amazing colorist for the interiors and for Kyle Roberts' variant cover. And we have Dave Lentz, who did the lettering, which usually I do the lettering for Nightwolf. But this time around, I wanted to have that complete different feel, you know, with the book. So I had Dave do the lettering for that. And also then my editor, Katrina Rhodes, who kept me, I guess, on the right track as far as like, you know, my dyslexia and all that. And we also had and then Mel for which would be Mog's husband, for managing her and keeping her on par.
Yeah, totally. No.
And then we have obviously our variant cover artists, you know, Ludo being one of them.
Yeah, everybody go out there. If you got to choose between variant artists, pick whatever you want. But I have to root for Ludo because he's the only reason I'm here. He is the Frenchman I talked about earlier, and he is an amazing talent and a nicer person than he is a good artist. So I will give him a shout out. He's amazing.
There you go. And then Chris Williams, who does a lot of covers for me. He's you know, amazing, and you know, I'll keep throwing work at him as long as he keeps having me come back. And then Catherine Lobo also did a gorgeous, elegant dance scene variant cover. I had mentioned Kyle Roberts as well. He did the swashbuckling villains.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So, and Carlos Herrera, of course, who did his variant cover and the character designs for the series. So that's my team. And so this is a larger team than I think I've ever worked with before.
Honestly, you went the variant covers. I didn't even think about that. You're nicer than I am.
Not nicer,
Anyway,
just he thought.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mog. I cut you off.
Oh, I was gonna say, Trish, to answer your question, I'm drinking absinthe. It's the best.
Oh my God! This is 2 weeks in a row we've had absinthe.
Is that really absinthe?
The artist.
No,
from
just joking. This is just veggie shakes, man. Grounded in
I was
liquid
such a big
form.
fan of yours at Absinthe.
This is a beautiful segue. This is a beautiful segue. We're about to go into the campaigns that have already been on. Last week we had Max Fuchs from the motherfucking fucker. The motherfucking fucker #1 was drinking absinthe with us, and I realized he only lives about an hour north of me. So I've never had absinthe, but I think if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it with a guy who writes and draws a comic called The Motherfucking Fucker. So
It's good. It's
so
good.
is it? Have you done it for real?
Oh, you get fucked up
I've
fast.
had the
Oh,
American.
great. It's great, yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's so good.
So I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to go into some of the campaigns that from creators like yourselves that have graced us with their presence. You may stay with us. You may go to bed. It's almost 1 o'clock my time. I don't know where everybody else is. Guys, it's been an absolute blast. I had so much fun tonight. Thank you. I busted up my back today, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And you guys were such a blast. I've just been laughing the entire time. And when I hang up on this, I'm going to go, oh, fuck my back. But this 2 hours has been so much fun. So hang with us or go to bed. It was very nice.
Thanks, everyone.
Wes and Mark.
Thank you,
Good night, guys.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And everybody who's listening on the stream, God, thank you. The chat was on fire tonight, and you guys made it a blast and more fun than it could be because you were giving us good questions to follow. And we're here for you. We're here to tell the show that you want to hear. So we still have, oh my gosh, 26 hours left on All the Devils Are Here. Jared Lujan and the artist came on. This is inside the mind of a man with dementia who also has demons in his mind. So it's The Exorcist inside the man with dementia. This is an incredible concept. I read the first 15 pages of about a 45-page one-shot. I don't know how it ends. It is incredible. I really, really think you should check out All the Devils Are Here. And I think you should do it quick because there's 26 hours before they close. Are you on it with me, Will? New Rat City. Honor Vincent came in. This is an ecological disaster story. New York in about 80 years has basically been decimated by the actual
ecological disasters.
Yeah, the actual things that's going to happen. So it's a little depressing, but basically it is the story of a guy who has to go in and kill the mutated rats that have taken over Manhattan in 80 years. That's basically unlivable, except eco-tourists go there to see the disasters that have happened. Honor was really cool, and it's kind of a love letter to her father, who was, his job. I'm stuck on Exorcist. He kills
Exterminator.
Exterminator, thank you. I'm like, he's not a fucking exorcist. He kills rats.
He exercises rats.
Yes. Really amazing art and a cool concept and a great book.
The power of cheese compels you.
New Rat City is it. We already talked about the motherfucking fucker. That is a wrestling comedy / sci-fi / whatever the hell Max Beach wants to draw. Really great art. Really, I think that it is Savage Sasquatch, and the motherfucking fucker is just like, yeah, like id on the page. This is cool and fun and kick-ass. Both projects I would check out if you're just looking for just fun.
Next up would be Road Trip to Hell.
Mm-hmm. Nicole?
We had Nicole on, and the average guy learns that his father was the king of hell, and his father's dead. Now he gets to be king if he survives. So,
and every terrible person in the history of the world that's in hell can kill him and take the throne. So obviously you got a little guy with a little mustache whose girlfriend's named Eva, and absolutely fun. I haven't gotten to read that one, but we've had such amazing concepts. And the next concept that we've had is a documentary comic. It's called What Follows Is True, The Crescent Hotel. This is a hotel in Will's home state of Arkansas that has been a woman's college, a hotel for the rich and famous in like 1905, a cancer ward run by a charlatan who made up his cure to cancer and killed all the
lot of
people who
people.
came to him. It is an extraordinary, real life, deeply researched, 240-page painted hardcover. It's like nothing I've ever seen in a comic book. I cannot wait to read it. It's
By Sean
Will,
Fitzgibbon.
yeah, Will, you know him. You know him personally. Which
Oh yeah,
thank
he's
God.
he lives and actually teaches here in Fayetteville, where I am. And Eureka Springs is only about an hour from Fayetteville. It's this weird little strange town that we have. Kind of an artist commune. They call it the Little Switzerland of Arkansas. I mean, okay, whatever. But it's a strange place, and it's a very strange hotel. It's purported to be haunted. I don't, Sean doesn't get into that in the book. I think he might get into the reports of it, but it's 240 pages of painted artwork. This is a labor of love that he's been working on forever, and it's awesome.
When I first heard about the book, I will say that I thought 240 pages. How did he come up with 240 pages of this book? And then he started talking about this hotel, and I thought, how did he cut down 1,000 pages of interesting stuff down to 240? So, Crescent City Hotel, guys and lady, Mog, I don't want to forget you when I say this. Had an absolute blast, and I thank you for joining us, and I thank everybody who joined us in the chat. It was great, and you guys fixed my back for 2 hours, and I thank you for that. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here.